Hello to all the traveling cyclones and welcome to the 2023 Iowa State Travel Preview. My name is Vinny Guarna and I work for Odysseys Unlimited. Odysseys has been partnering with Iowa State since 2003, bringing alumni to all corners of the globe, and we look forward to continuing to meet your travel needs. For those of you who have traveled with Odysseys in the past, thank you very much for your patronage. And for those of you who have not yet traveled with Odysseys, I'd like to provide you with a brief overview of our company. Odysseys Unlimited has been in business for 23 years. We're located just west of Boston, Massachusetts. We have a staff of 80 employees and we contract with 350 tour directors worldwide. We're a land-based motor coach tour operator specializing in small group travel of 12 to 24 guests. We have 50 plus programs spanning the globe, ranging in length from 11 to 22 days. Our tours feature many inclusions. However, the most important feature is that we're all about small group travel. Again, we do limit the size of our groups. Each departure is 12 to 24 guests. And in doing so, we feel that we're providing our travelers with a more personal, up close, and authentic encounter with the country that they're visiting. Our groups also have more personalized attention from the tour director, and they're able to stay in accommodations that only welcome small groups. And that leads me to the next important feature, our unique accommodations. Our tours feature first class to deluxe accommodations. We do use some chain properties such as Hyatt's or Marriott's, but for the most part, we're using smaller boutique style hotels, such as a private villa in Tuscany, or a beautiful whitewashed hotel in Santorini overlooking the Aegean Sea, or a serene mountain retreat in northern Iceland, or a beautiful 13th century palace in the hills of Portugal. Next, our next important feature are our tour directors. Our tour directors are all nationals of their country, offering you their insider's perspective. Many of the tour directors have been working with Odysseys for 10 plus years. And many of the guests returning from the trip cite their tour directors as the reason why they enjoyed the trip so much. The tour director's passion for their country helps bring the tour alive for many of our travelers. But besides those three important features, our tours include many other inclusions, starting with round-trip economy airfare from your home city. We can fly you from any city in the States to the final destination. If your trip includes internal flights, that airfare is included in your tour price. We use first-class motor coach transportation, but if your trip also features a boat, a yacht, or a train, that's all included. Luggage handling is included as well. Our trips feature extensive sightseeing. All your entrance fees are covered. Most of the meals are included, so we include all your breakfast and about 50 to 75% of your lunches and dinners, with enough room for independent exploration of the guests. And then a majority of the tips are included. So as you can see, our trips do include many features, and this is our brand of small group travel. So let's jump into the first tour for 2023. It's entitled Costa Rica's Natural Heritage, January the 12th through the 22nd. This program is 11 days, and it actually has a maximum capacity of only 18 travelers. So the tour includes stops in the Central Valley, the rainforest, the cloud forest, and the beautiful Pacific coastline. I'm just going to pick a few highlights to point out here. So in the Central Valley, you'll visit the Aratsu National Park. You'll learn about and get up close with an active volcano. While in the cloud forest region, you'll walk high above the canopy floor on your hanging bridges skywalk. And then finally, in the Pacific coastline, you'll enjoy 3 nights at a beautiful beach resort to rest and relax, and also take part in a boat safari in search of all the exciting wildlife. This is an exclusive Iowa State departure, and the prices begin air inclusive, $39.81. This is based on double occupancy. The next trip, we move down under to New Zealand Adventure, January the 26th through February the 10th. This program is 16 days. We cover both the North and the South Island. We spend a couple of days in Auckland, 2 nights in Rotorua, 1 night in Napier, 2 nights in the capital city of Wellington. We then fly down to Christchurch for 1 night there, followed by a train ride east to Franz Josef through the beautiful, spectacular mountain glacier valley. You'll spend 2 nights in Franz Josef, and then finally motor coach down for a 3-night stay in the adventure capital of Queenstown. I'll choose a couple of highlights to point out here while in Rotorua. Rotorua is known for its geothermal activity, so you'll get to see all the various thermal springs, the mubbling mud pits, and the geysers. And then while in Queenstown, this is known as the adventure capital, you'll enjoy a day cruise in the beautiful mountain scenery of Doubtful Sound. And you'll also have ample time to experience all the wonderful outdoor activities that this city has to offer. This trip is another Iowa State exclusive departure, and the starting price begins at $69.74 based on double occupancy. Next is a personal favorite of mine, Egypt. Egypt and the Eternal Nile, January the 27th through February the 10th. This program is 15 days, another Iowa State exclusive. We cover all the iconic sites you would expect to see, including the pyramids of Giza and the Sphinx, a classic Nile cruise. But what makes this trip special is that we've added a second cruise on the man-made lake in the south of Egypt called Lake Nasser. So the trip begins with a few nights in Cairo, where you'll encounter the famous Giza pyramids and the Sphinx. You'll then fly down to the southern city of Aswan. You'll board your motor coach, head 3 hours south to the city of Abu Simbel, where you encounter the 4 massive statues of Ramses II, each 65 feet high. You board your first cruise on Lake Nasser. And in Lake Nasser, you'll learn about all the various Nubian history, as well as see all the impressive temples of the area. You'll cruise for a few nights, disembark in Aswan, and then you'll board your second cruise, your classic Nile cruise for a few nights, moving through the upper Nile Valley. You'll take in, again, more temples, and you'll see the most important temples, Karnak and Luxor. We'll also take you to the necropolis sites of the Valley of the Kings and Queens. You disembark in Luxor, spend 1 night there. You'll visit the Luxor Museum, and then finally fly back to Cairo for a final couple of nights where you'll visit the Grand Bazaar and the Christian churches. For those guests interested, we're also offering a post-tour extension for a few nights in the country of Jordan, where you can spend a couple of nights in Amman, as well as see the impressive ruins of the Red Rose city of Petra. This trip, again, another Iowa State exclusive. The starting price is $52.97. Okay. Next, we head to South America on a trip entitled Treasures of Peru, February the 20th through March the 2nd. This program is 11 days. Again, another Iowa State exclusive departure. The trip starts in Lima, coastal capital. You then fly from Lima on a short flight, about an hour and a half, up to Cusco, where you begin acclimating to the high altitude. Cusco sits at about an altitude of 11,500 feet, but you begin slowly acclimating to the high altitude as you descend into the Sacred Valley, which sits at 9,000 feet. And you'll spend a couple of nights here doing some sightseeing, getting you prepared, heading for Machu Picchu. You'll board a Vistadome train. Takes about 2 hours from the Sacred Valley to reach Machu Picchu, but you'll have not 1 but 2 days of sightseeing at Machu Picchu. And then from there, you'll train back to Cusco, Cusco being one of the oldest inhabited cities in all of South America. You'll do some sightseeing in Cusco, and then you'll take a motor coach ride up to Puno and the Lake Titicaca region, where you'll spend 2 nights meeting with the local Urus people who live on islands made out of reeds. You'll fly back from Puno to Lima for your final night. And for those of you interested in continuing your Peruvian adventure, we're offering a 4-night trip to northern Peru on an Amazon rainforest extension. This particular trip is $42.87 air inclusive, based on double occupancy. Next, we have probably one of our more popular trips. This trip always sells out with Iowa State. It's called Portrait of Italy, April the 1st through the 16th. This particular trip is a classic, a highlights trip of Italy. So if you haven't visited Italy, this would be the trip for you. So the trip begins with a flight into Naples. You'll then travel to the Amalfi Coast, where you'll spend 3 spectacular nights on a hotel overlooking the coast. From the Amalfi Coast, you motor coach north to Rome, where you spend 3 nights in the Eternal City. You have a balanced mix of sightseeing in the mornings and then free time in the afternoon and evenings. On one morning, we take you to the Vatican Museums and the Sistine Chapel. On another morning, you visit the Colosseum and the Roman Forum. And then from there, you head to the beautiful green heart of Italy in Umbria, where you spend 3 nights in Orvieto, a hilltop town. You visit the town of Saint Francis of Assisi. You also have a cooking class in Orvieto. And then from there, you travel north for what promises to be a tour highlight. You spend 3 nights in a classic Tuscan villa. It's a small family-owned villa with only 21 rooms set in the Tuscan hills. While here, we'll use this as our base for visiting other towns such as the Renaissance capital of Florence, medieval Siena, the 13 watchtowers of San Gimignano, and also a tour of the Chianti region. The tour ends finally with a 2-night stay in the magical city of Venice, where you'll have ample time for sightseeing on your own, as well as a walking tour of St. Mark's Square. This is an exclusive Iowa State departure. It has a starting price of $5,074 air inclusive. And again, this tour does sell out quickly. Next up, we have a tour entitled Ancient Greece, 14 days, April the 20th through May the 3rd. This tour is actually a share with K-State. So the trip features tours in Athens, which is on the mainland region of Greece. We also spent time in the Peloponnese region, where we spent time in the city of Nafplion. But what makes this trip truly special is a 5-night stay on the islands. So the trip begins 3 nights in Athens, where you encounter the incredible Acropolis and you visit the temple of the Parthenon. You also visit the local Plaka district below the Acropolis with the taverna restaurants and the shops. We'll also take you out to see the ancient oracle of Apollo in Delphi, which sits along the Mount Parnassus mountain range, pictured there on the top left. From Athens, you'll head south by motor coach, crossing the Corinth Canal. You'll head into the Nafplion region of the Peloponnese region. You'll tour Mycenae, which was the pinnacle of Mycenaean civilization for many centuries, and where Greek culture really flourished. It's mentioned prominently in Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. But back from Nafplion, you'll head back to Athens. You'll board a short flight, which takes you from Athens down to the island of Crete, where you spend 3 spectacular nights on the island, taking in island life. You'll visit the Palace of Knossos. And then from there, you'll take a high-speed ferry up to the iconic and beautiful island of Santorini, pictured there in the top right. Our hotel offers beautiful views of the Aegean Sea. You'll take a winery tour in Santorini, and you'll learn about the incredible geological history of this island with its volcanic eruption from several thousand years ago. So this trip has a starting price of $59.92 air inclusive. And again, this is a share with K-State. Next, not too far from Greece, we have a tour called Legendary Turkey. May the 5th through the 19th. This program is 15 days. When you think of Turkey, you think of a couple of things. You think of that classic saying, East meets West. You think of Istanbul, you think of the ruins of Ephesus, but this tour offers so much more. We travel to the south coast, the famous turquoise coast with its brilliant blue and green waters. So this tour has a lot more than just the classic sites of Istanbul and Ephesus, as you'll see. So the trip begins in Istanbul, where Europe meets Asia. There's so much to see in Istanbul, from the blue mosque with its 6 minarets to the Hagia Sophia church pictured there on the top left. Actually, it started as a church, then it became a mosque, now it's a museum. You visit Topkapi Palace, which was home to many of the sultans for over 400 years. You have a Bosphorus cruise, and we take you to the Grand Bazaar and the spice market. From Istanbul, you'll travel south, crossing the Dardanelles Straits. You'll head for Assos for a one-night stay. You'll tour the famous Troy ruins. From there, you'll travel down to the city of Kusadasi. We'll spend 3 nights here on the coastline. And from here, we'll visit the famous ruins of Ephesus. We have not 1, but 2 full days at Ephesus, taking in the magnificent ruins. Pictured there on the top right is the Library of Celsus, located in Ephesus. And then from Kusadasi, you'll travel south by motor coach to the southern city of Fethiye, where we spend a couple of nights. You'll enjoy a full day cruise, a private day cruise on a yacht, taking in all the beautiful turquoise coast regions. We'll take you to all the secluded coves. And then from there, we'll travel to the resort town of Antalya for more sightseeing of Greek ruins, as well as leisure time to enjoy the beautiful resort. For those of you who wish, we're also offering an extension to the city of Konya and Cappadocia, known for its fairy tale chimney, natural structures, as well as the ancient Christian churches built into the rock face cliffs. This trip has a starting price of $44.92, and it's a shared departure with University of Minnesota. The next trip is Iceland, exploring Iceland, August the 26th through September the 5th. This program is 11 days. This program is a shared departure with Ohio University. And when you think of Iceland, Iceland is really all about nature. You won't find any ancient ruins or spectacular palaces to visit here. Nature is the entertainment. So the trip begins, you fly into Reykjavik and you head immediately to the south coast and Selfoss, where you spend 2 nights. You'll then head back to Reykjavik. You'll board a short flight, about 35 minutes, headed for the capital of the north, called Akureyri. From there, you head to Lake Mývatn for views to visits of the bubbling mud pits and the geysers and the volcanic craters. From there, you head to Siglafjord, where you'll have a bird watching cruise and have spectacular fjord scenery. And then from there, you head south by motor coach to the western fjords of Borgarbyggð, if I pronounced that correctly. You'll enjoy a day-long excursion out to Snæfellsnes Peninsula, taking in all the raw and primal nature. And then from there, you'll head back to the city of Reykjavik for a final 2-night stay. This tour has many glacier and many waterfall visits. In fact, one of the more popular waterfalls is pictured there in the top right, Skógafoss waterfall with an 183-foot drop. And this trip has a starting price of $55.92, air inclusive. Next is a repeat trip with Iowa State. It's called Scotland Highlands and Islands, September the 2nd through the 13th. This program is 12 days. It features the major cities of Glasgow and Edinburgh, but it spends a good portion of the time in the Highlands region. So the trip begins with a 2-night stay in Glasgow. Glasgow, following World War II, was a depressed industrial and dark city. It's experienced a renaissance over the past 25 years with many new wonderful restaurants and spectacular Victorian scenery and Victorian buildings, that many guests are traveling to Glasgow. It's a really wonderful city to take in. But from there, we travel north to the Highlands region and we spend 2 nights in Fort William. And then from there, we travel north, traveling along the spine of Loch Ness, 23-mile drive to beautiful scenery. We're headed up to Avemore, where we spend a couple of nights. And then from there, we travel south down to St. Andrews. We spend 1 night here. St. Andrews, of course, is the origin of golf about 600 years ago. It's also home to one of the oldest universities in all of Scotland. And then finally, we head down to the capital city in Edinburgh, where we take in the Edinburgh Castle, the Royal Mile, as well as Holyrood Palace, which is the residence of the Queen when she's visiting Scotland. A couple of other highlights of this particular trip: we do a day-long excursion out to the Isle of Skye, which is the largest of Scotland's Inner Hebrides Islands. And while there, we'll stop at the iconic Elandonan Castle pictured there in the top left. We also visit Dunrobin Castle and Gardens with the falconry demonstration. That's in the north in the Highlands region as well. And this trip has a starting price of $52.96, and this departure is an exclusive Iowa State trip. The second to last tour is called Discovering Portugal, September the 24th through October the 6th. This program is 13 days. This is one of my favorite countries. The tour starts with a 2-night stay in the capital city of Lisbon. You head north via motor coach up to Porto. Porto, of course, is made famous by their port and wine. You'll spend 3 nights here, and then you'll travel south to the city of Estremoz, where you'll spend a couple of nights. And then you're headed down to the Algarve region, right on the coast, in the city of Sagres. You spend 2 nights here. And then you travel north back to Lisbon for a final night. What's special about this trip is that we're using unique accommodations. They're called pousadas. A pousada is a historic inn, such as a convent or an ancient monastery or an ancient fortress that the government has taken and turned into a cultural treasure. We'll be spending some of our nights in these pousadas in Oporto, Estremoz, and Sagres. Other highlights of this trip include Lisbon sightseeing, where you'll visit the Belém Tower and the famous Jerónimos Monastery with its Manluine architecture. You'll have 3 nights in the northern city of Oporto, where you'll have a port wine tasting. We'll also take you on a private Douro River cruise for a leisurely cruise in the afternoon. Traveling south from Oporto, you'll visit the ancient town of Guimarães, which was the birthplace of the first king of Portugal. You'll visit the University of town of Coimbra and the ancient town of Évora with its Roman ruins and Chapel of Bones. This trip has a starting price of $44.72, air inclusive, and this departure is a share with Miami University of Ohio. Finally, we're actually returning back to Italy. We have a second departure, a portrait of Italy in the fall, October the 17th through November the 1st. Again, this is a highlights trip of Italy, starting in the southern regions on the Amalfi Coast, headed to Rome, Orvieto, a 3-night Tuscan villa stay, and then finally in Venice. This trip is a little bit more expensive than the spring departure since October is considered high season. So this trip has a starting price of $53.74, air inclusive. And again, this is an exclusive Iowa State departure. So that is a look at the 11 tour offerings with Iowa State in 2023. And to help keep our travelers safe throughout the trips, we do require that all guests be fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Our tour directors and coach drivers will also be vaccinated. We've been operating our trips over the past year safely and effectively, and we continue to do so. But there will also be other restrictions that some of the foreign governments may impose, but Odysseys Unlimited will be there to help you navigate through the myriad of information, including all these restrictions. Some other logistics. If you're interested in booking one of these trips, you can call our toll-free number, 888-370-6765, or contact the Iowa State Alumni Association for information or reservations. Our tours require a $500 per person deposit, but this deposit is fully refundable up to 95 days prior to departure. We're trying to alleviate any financial concerns you have in this uncertain era of travel. So you can book a trip for next year and you can cancel for any reason up to 95 days prior to departure. We accept all forms of payment, including personal check, American Express, MasterCard, Visa, or Discover. And that is a brief look at Odysseys Unlimited, at our tour offerings and some logistics. I'd like to thank Lainey, Shelley, and the Alumni Association for inviting me here today to speak with you. and we hope to see you on the road in 2023. Thank you very much.